Memories. We all have them and they power our beliefs and feelings. Sometimes they're strong and clear, sometimes diffuse and unreachable, but either way, they're always off stage, guiding our narrative. But when we try to go into memory storage and recall the specifics of things, it can get kind of muddy. Lawyers working in trials understand this all too well, that memory is a funny thing, that eyewitness testimony is inadmissible because it's so unreliable, and that memories of seemingly surefire events can be lodged like shrapnel into a person's brain from explosive rounds of questioning. So then, if memory isn't a mirror reflecting reality but a hammer that shapes the reflective metal plates in our heads, how can marketers take advantage and hitch a free ride on the memory mobile? How can lawyers create memorable, marketable assets for their law firms that get the phone to ring for as little cost as possible? Why not start with your phone number itself? Is it memorable? Does it repeat, spell out anything? Does having a memorable phone number for the law firm seem too simple a marketing fix? Well, that's what we're talking about today on Lawsome. Vanity numbers, voice, and memory in legal marketing. Let's roll.
Lawsome, the podcast for law firms. Powered by Consultwebs.
Welcome back to Lawsome, the only podcast for law firms that sings in the shower. We're here to inform, educate, and entertain the legal community on the latest in legal marketing and law firm development. I am Jake Sanders, the captain of cacophony, and with me is the admiral of the audible, Paul Julius. Paul, what is your favorite sound?
So I've been thinking about this ever since you wrote it.
Has it been that long?
Yeah. So for like 5-6 minutes tops. Yeah. It's tough, man, because there's I like nature sounds. You know, like I like to ride my bike, so I'm out like on these bike paths, and sometimes you know I cruise by the river. It's nice. You know, it's kind of pastoral thing. But then you know, one thing, the one that immediately jumped to me though is you know, I play guitar, and right when you flip a tube amp off standby, there's this hum. And it just is like, it's almost like it's just like a here we go. So that might be it for right now. That's the one that did. How about you? What do you got? Do you have a favorite sound?
I think it's laughter. I think my wife's laughter in particular.
Wow, I feel like kind of a jerk now. I stand by it. I still like the tube amp.
I'm smelling what you're digging up. So why don't we just tell people what's on the show?
On the show today, we talk about memory in advertising with an article from Nielsen.com. Then we discuss phone numbers, marketing, intake, and the power of voice with RingBoost President Paul Faust. And as always, we dial up the tough stuff. 5 questions we ask everyone.
Pull up a plate. It's the Hot Takes Buffet.
The Hot Take Buffet today is brought to you from Nielsen.com, the insight solution marketing research company that tells us what everybody's doing. And now they're telling us what's going on here with memory and advertising. It's written by David Brandt. Sounds trustworthy.
Yeah.
So I'll start with this.
Memorable.
It's David Brandt. The David Brandt? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So let me start with this intro, and then we'll provide our hot takes. Dave starts like this. Advertisers and those who measure the impact of advertising are obsessed with memory. If advertising is to be successful, it has to stick in the consumer's memory, or so the saying goes. What saying? Anyway.
Come on, David.
But what exactly is that thing called memory? How long does it linger, and how do we measure it? At the first level, memory can be divided into 2 types. Explicit memory, which refers to information we are aware of, and implicit memory, which refers to information we're not consciously aware of. They kind of go on to kind of explain different types of memory and how episodic and semantic memories, things that are associated with events or things that are associated with behaviors or surroundings. It's really interesting. I thought this played well with the topic that we talk about later with Paul, which is numbers. Basically, your advertising or marketing doesn't work if people don't remember it. And I think memory is key. Numbers are a great way to get there. I mean, my hot take is that I totally agree. But what's your hot take here? Was there anything that you found particularly exciting about this article?
Yeah, and I kind of, it related back to something that we talked about in our book review episode for Persuasion, where the brain, you can only handle, you're not truly multitasking, right? You have this window to make an impression or focus on things or whatever.
Right.
And I thought that was kind of a correlation here, because it says that Nielsen tested the memorability of 49 video ads. And then tested it over a certain amount of time. You got to read the article. It's a little bit more in depth. But it says that brand recognition falls in half overnight. And not just in the lab, but in market tracking shows that. But it says the follow-up to that is that practice, makes perfect, that repetition is needed to create durable memories. So if you have this small window of opportunity where you're going to be able to get someone's unfocused attention, you need to build that memory. And I think that's kind of what we're looking at with advertising, is that's why you don't, people talk about a catchphrase, a slogan, a brand name, a logo. It has to be consistent. And we're not saying it because, you're driving designers crazy or you're making ad campaign, managers nuts. It's because you have a very limited time to get someone's attention. And so you need to be consistent if you're trying to build, some kind of brand recognition and embed it in their brain.
And think about this. Good point. He goes on, he says, what brand of smartphone did you see advertised on TV last night? Test yourself with brand recognition and recapture. Like, do you recall if it was a Samsung Galaxy S7 or was it an iPhone commercial? What if they told you it was aired during last night's episode of Madam Secretary? What if, we were told they had a father and a daughter at a play together? Very often you can't piece one thing, but you can piece several different parts. So really, advertising isn't just one and done. As a marketer, it's interesting because, you release the campaign and then you're done with it. You never come back to it. You release a blog and then you never come back to it. You never repost it. Frequency, repetition is this free memory building device, and your numbers are essential to it. So it's interesting that we're figuring out the taglines or figuring out the colors like you were just talking about, but no one thinks about the numbers. There's a potential for you to spell something out in your number or for you to have repeating numbers. You may have to pay a little bit. Talking to Paul Faust later, it could cost thousands of dollars for you to get a number that's all eights, And if you're the octopus injury lawyer, 888-888-8888, that would be like your number. But you'd have to be willing to say, is it worth $10,000,
And the other thing too is that, like, we're talking about, particularly with lawyers, it's not something people are calling all the time. This isn't your local pizza place. This isn't something where, whatever, once you program it in the phone, you're going to be using it all the time, whatever, who cares? This is when it's time to make that call, everything you can possibly do to reinforce some kind of brand or nudge people your way. It is those little things, once you've crossed the big things off the list, those little things are those 1%, 2%. Those are the ones that make the difference. And we talk about that later.
Talking about phone numbers, before we recorded, me and you were singing phone numbers back and forth to each other. Empire today. You had Glenn Lerner, Injury Associates, which is what, Paul?
Glenn Lerner is a lawyer for you. Call 222-2222. You owe me $10, Glenn.
Ring, ring, ring. So, but it's so exciting to talk to Paul later because lawyers think, well, I'm not that lawyer, or I don't have anything catchy, or I don't have any gimmicks that I want to put forth. The first thing you can do that can create a memorable opportunity for you, it's the number that people call to get in contact with you. Because far and away, lawyers say, when you get me on the phone with a potential client, I'm going to close the case. We're going to sign the deal. Just get me on the phone with them. Mm-hmm. Well, then how do you remove the barriers, just like you said, Paul, to get them on the phone? You make it memorable. You use a vanity number. You hang out with us. And then you listen to this interview that we're about to go to.
Let's go.
Lawson continues. But first, a word from our sponsor.
I met Tanner, who works for Consultwebs, on a plane on the way back from Key West, Florida. And I'd just been thinking that I needed to do some more marketing for my law firm. So when he told me that he worked for Consultwebs, I was super excited. From the beginning till even now, I've been with them for almost 2 years, and the experience has really been great. Having Consultwebs on board is really like having your own team of people that really care about what kind of business you're getting. I mean, practicing law can seem kind of lonely. You always are wondering, how am I going to get clients? How am I going to make payroll? But with Consultwebs, it's not just me worrying about having people come in the door. They're there as well, and they've been so responsive. Since I started with Consultwebs, I have increased the number of employees double at least. And since I started with Consultwebs, the revenue has tripled. So it's really been an incredible experience.
Go to consultwebs.com to learn more.
And now, for a Lawson interview.
Paul Faust is the president of RingBoost, the nation's largest provider of custom phone numbers, and he believes in the power of voice connection to help law firms grow in today's crowded marketplace. Paul was inducted into the Pilma Hall of Fame in 2017. He's active in dozens of legal shows throughout the year. He's launched several successful businesses, is a volunteer firefighter, and he's here to set the show ablaze with his thoughts on the reemergence of voice and its role in business development for law firms. Paul, welcome to Lawsome.
Well, thank you guys so much for having me on. I'm very excited to talk to you guys and your audience about this topic.
So explain RingBoost and explain how that work intersects with law firms.
Okay, so RingBoost's specialty, which is sort of unique, is phone numbers. That set of codes that everyone just sort of takes for granted, we recognize them early on as assets. And so we built a company around helping business owners get numbers that work for their business, that are more memorable, that fit into taglines or just easy patterns. And we market them to every business out there. But over time, the legal profession in certain types of law, mainly a lot of personal injury, mass tort law, if you look at markets, they tend to be the biggest advertisers. They were the ones, with the back of the yellow pages on all the billboards, the TV ads. And so more and more, our clientele base started to grow into law firms, highly competitive, spending advertising dollars and wanting to, get the most return. So we sort of, collided with that world. And then I just started spending more and more time in it, going to conferences, working with the big players, getting to know people, understanding their pain points. And so fortunately now, after doing this almost 15 years, we have worked with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of firms across the country of all sizes, from solo practitioners to the largest firms that everybody knows, helping them with their phone number and voice strategy.
So talking about solos and mid-size and large firms, a lot of marketing and advertising seems out of reach for the solo or the small. They say, well, I'll just get Google Voice for my phones, or I'll just get a bundled AOL email address, for client communications. speak to that. Like you say, you're working with small firms. How is a phone number just as important? I'm not like a big billboard lawyer, so I don't have to worry about it. What do you say to that person?
I say that, look, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you're a solo practitioner with 0 ad dollars or the biggest firms that are spending 6-7 figures a month. You still need to drive phone calls and can use your phone as a tool, as an asset. So I talk to lots of solo and small businesses, and I might say to them, look, you can't compete in the television market. If you do, they're going to bury you. You might not be able to compete to get number one in your digital marketing, but you don't have to be spending money to think about how you're going to drive more calls and first of all, drive any calls and get more of them. I can, without any expertise, without any outside help or experts, take a great phone number, put it on my business cards. I could put it on my email signature. I could tell all my friends and family, hey, if you know someone looking for legal services, here's my number. If I go to business networking events, all of this stuff requires virtually no outside marketing spending. But at the end of the day, when somebody has a legal matter, often there's a lot of things going on and they're very tunnel visioned. And if the number sticks, or if they ask their friend, hey, I need a lawyer. Do you know someone? Oh, yes, I'd recommend, Attorney Paul Julius. He's great. Do you know his number? And if someone says no, and they're forced to go online to look up Paul Julius, the odds are they're going to find a firm that's spending more in digital marketing or pay-per-click or something else. So if they could say, oh yeah, Paul's number is, and whatever that might be, 914-222-PAUL or 1-800-CALL-PAUL. If I can make that path to the customer easier and quicker, it works for everybody. Now, obviously, if you are spending money on TV, radio, billboards, and all the other thing, it's even better. But that doesn't mean that there aren't ways to deploy a number in your marketing that cost virtually nothing. And then as you grow, you add in more and you add in more.
So people make fun of Vanity repeating phone numbers, but me and Paul, before we got on this, we sang all of the phone numbers we knew back to each other, and it was amazing. I mean, we had at least dozens of jingles that live for free inside of our heads. This Vanity phone numbers, repeating numbers, it's big business, powerful memory devices. But at my old firm, I remember talking about tens of thousands of dollars to get all fours or to get all sevens. Is that justifiable? Is that crazy? I mean, what's your thought on these, why these are so expensive?
So, well, absolutely, it's justifiable. Before we get there, if you know of anybody making fun of Vanity or repeating numbers, please get their name, because I will have that taken care of immediately. I know people. I love this question, right? Because I get lawyers and I'll tell them a number. Let's just make up a number, $10,000, $20,000, and they'll say, "Oh my God, that's crazy expensive." And I say, okay, let's back up a minute. How many billboards you have? Oh, I've got 30 of them. What's the average billboard costing you? I don't know. In some markets, 1,000, 2,000. Some markets could be 3,000, 4,000 a month for one billboard. So you're okay paying $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 a year for one billboard. One billboard, but you don't want to spend $10,000 or $20,000 on a phone number that can go on that board and increase the response rates and the ROI, can go on your business card, your website, your radio, your TV. Everybody can know it, etc. So the only reason I think people think that is because they've been conditioned to think that, because in the original days, you called the phone company and they gave you a number for free. So people aren't used to the fact that a number would cost, but it's not a phone number. These aren't phone numbers. They are response tools. What I tell people, it's an investment with an obscenely high rate of return. So let's say I take out a billboard and I'm spending, $2,000 a month on that billboard, and I test it for a year or 6 months, whatever it might be. And after 6 months or a year, not really working out for me, I didn't get the return. I take that billboard down. I now have nothing to show for it. That same billboard has got my phone number on it. And the billboard's not working out the way I want, and I take the billboard down. Well, I still have got the number on my radio, my TV, my business cards, my yard signs, my car, wherever it might be. So it's just about conditioning. If I can take the same spend and get 5, 10, 15% better response simply because it's memorable, simply because it makes a referral easier, simply because it saves somebody from maybe going online and then seeing your competitor's ad, then it really wouldn't matter what the price is. But that all being said, we also have good numbers that are $300-$400. Not everybody fits into the budget of 5, 10, 15, 20, 40, $100,000. There is an answer for everyone.
You know, I'm really surprised too that people kind of give it the side eye, it seems, especially given how much emphasis is placed on like domain names and URL.
Well,
You know what I mean?
You know, and I think
premium.
side eye wasn't the right thing. I think that it just feels corny.
Yeah,
you know,
maybe
that's kind of what I meant. I think people think it's valuable and works, but I think, no, that's not for me. It's just corny. That's kind of what I meant, Paul.
I think, well, look, there are some firms, maybe a white shoe law firm on Madison Avenue that's in corporate law. Maybe it's not for them. They don't do a lot of marketing that way. But you know, have you seen I'm assuming you have personal injury marketing, billboards, radio, TV. Some of them, I'm not going to say they're corny, but the whole point is to get your attention. And eventually, as corny as the ads are that some people run or aggressive there, ultimately it's about getting you on the phone so this attorney can help you in your time of need. And my tool is just one arrow in the quiver. It's one path to get you to the door. If you want to go to that door, you know, through a website or a chat bot or an email, that's fine. But why would you? It's like having the perfect case and then having no closing argument. Like the phone number is one tool. And let me tell you something, you know, I can go to a room of lawyers. If I had 500 lawyers in the room and I said, okay, somebody's been hurt in a car accident, catastrophic injuries, blah, 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 blah. You have two choices and two choices only. They go to your website and fill out a contact form, or they get you on the phone. Raise your hand if you want the phone. I'm going to tell you every single hand will go up because every one of these lawyers believes if they get the client on the phone, they will convince them they're the right attorney for them and they will get that case signed up versus getting a form where now you have to get back to someone. We don't know if they filled out multiple forms. Maybe they filled out the form and then they got busy. So if that's the case, why are we not making it easy for people to reach us via voice? And again, I am not saying not to use digital assets, not to spend money on your website, in a rank, and pay-per-click, and social media. We do. We believe in it. It is one of the components of a smart marketing mix. But why would you ignore this whole other mix that is simple to use, easy to deploy, doesn't require you to be a degreed expert, and the rules don't change? You know, I have someone in my office that I pay a very nice salary to that really just pays attention to every digital change that happens, whether it be it's not Facebook anymore, it's Snapchat and Twitter, Instagram, and it's not those links. We have too many keywords. We don't have enough keywords. We got too long a blog. We don't have enough blogs. Right. Our blogs have too many right? And you have to stay up on the latest digital trends. That's just the world we're in. It's mobile site, it's speed. Phone numbers just work. Everybody knows how to use them. They just work and they can be deployed, but it's not the end all be all. It's one tool that, to me, it's insane that people would overlook when they're doing all this other stuff. I talk to lawyers all the time. They pick their name, their tagline, their social media, their brand ethos, and most of them probably looked at 2 or 3 swatches to pick out the paint color in their office. And then they said to the phone company, just chuck me the next 7 digits off the pile. I don't care. And to me, that's insane.
Oh yeah. Well, and maybe side eye was a poor choice. I like what you said there. It was overlook, or maybe they don't prioritize it. And I think that's kind of, you know, like Jake said, we were singing to each other all the different ones we remembered. One of the first ones I remembered was a personal injury lawyer. So I think it's incredibly effective. You know,
I could tell you, like, some of the top lawyers around the country, and I literally, I'm at 8 to 10 shows a year. I work with or know thousands. I could tell you in different markets, who I could tell you numbers right now off the top of my head. And guys, some of them I've never even, maybe I've seen one of their ads, but I know the numbers instantly. It just works. There's a reason that they're using them.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So into this a little bit more though. So we're talking, Jake and I do a lot of marketing. We always are trying to pin back, a click to a lead to a case and stuff like that. But, so we want to talk a little bit about tracking. So if tracking these numbers is possible, why not have a unique tracking number on every piece of advertising to identify where the marketing money is working?
That is a great question. It's been asked in the industry many times, and I've heard people give the definitive answer into which is the best number. And I'm going to tell you the only correct answer. The only correct answer is it depends. There is a time and a place for all types of numbers. If you were tracking specific landing pages to follow through, I can buy into the argument that I'm doing landing pages specifically. I want to make sure this landing page works. This pay-per-click ad works. Somebody is staring at it, and I could put a unique tracking number right there because the hope is that they're going through my funnel. They've clicked, they've landed on that page, and I can track that landing page versus another one. So I can understand that. But to tell me that you're going to put a different number on a billboard when I'm driving a car, listening to the radio, having my kids scream in the backseat, staring at the scenery, I see a board out there, and you're going to put a 7 random digit tracking number on that board and expect that a human being driving 60 miles an hour. I have a Tesla that I won at a CRISP conference, so I go a little faster than that. I'm not remembering that. So there is a time and a place for all types of numbers. If you're doing a direct mail campaign and you want to test 5 different direct mail campaigns under the assumption that they're either going to stare at it and call or maybe put it on their pin board, okay, maybe you could have a tracking number. There's some media agencies that only pay for media based on calls. They might have to use tracking numbers. In those cases, I'm not a fan of them. I think there is no exact science to it, right? No answer is perfect. Let's say that I saw a billboard for a lawyer, and then I'm driving a little longer and I hear a radio ad for that same lawyer. And I'm like, you know what? I should really call that guy. And then I go online and I search him and I get to one of your landing pages and I call. You've now tracked the effectiveness of that ad. That landing page got you that piece of business. But you're not factoring in that it was the billboard and the radio that also drove some of that decision because that was where I heard about it. So no answer is exact. I can, if I'm using the right software in my systems, I can say, how did you hear about us? Oh, you saw our billboard. Also, like, you can ask those questions. And so I understand that there isn't a perfect answer, but there is absolutely a time and a place for a tracking number and a time and a place to have one solid, memorable number in your media.
Here's a question from a law firm perspective. We're having problems having potential clients call a number and existing clients call another.
I understand it for a tracking purpose. At the end of the day, I want people to be able to call me and get us on the phone so we could either get them signed up and get them as a new client, get the intake done. And if it's a current client, look, I want the process to be easy because that ultimately is going to, make them a happy customer, a better referral partner, have a better outcome. If they wind up calling the same number, so be it. Ultimately, the attorney handling the case, the paralegal, whoever can pass out another direct line and say, look, if you need us to know what's going on with your case or scheduling, call us here. It's a direct line. So there is a way to do it. But at the end of the day, if they use the memorable number, the main number, and they get you, great. You've handled them better than making it tougher for them.
Right. So it's interesting because I remember I was the marketing director and we had one huge memorable number and everyone called that number over and over and over, even the existing clients. And I remember them getting upset because we couldn't quite filter out the traffic from what quantity was incoming and what quantity was existing. And then at some point I said, it's all part of the same benefit, but really reception and intake are sort of at the heart. How you kind of delegate the calls that come in. So with all the talk about phone numbers and your experience here, you must have a perspective on intake. So what do you think law firms are doing right with selling on the phones? And what do you see that needs work there? You saying the power of voice because it's really powerful, but what are your thoughts on intake?
I think it is probably the biggest issue for law firms out there. My job is to help them get numbers to drive more calls. But if they don't have the right intake process, then none of what I do or you do as a digital marketing company or a television advertiser matters. At the end of the day, that phone rings. That basically has barely gotten you to, like, if you're thinking about the Monopoly analogy, it got you to the starting line.
Right.
It's number one, having the right people trained to take that call. And it's not about being a robot. Okay, your name, where did the accident, but it's empathizing. It's making that person at their time of need, know that you care and that you could help them with, their situation. There's one of the leading experts in this industry that many people know, Harlan Schillinger. For many of us, I think he created a lot of the business for us, really created legal marketing. Intake is something that it's his biggest issue, is why he's part of a company called Lead Docket, because what Harlan and I, talk about all the time is that lawyers know the information they're given, right? But they don't know the information they're not given. They have no idea what information is not being passed to them if they're not using a process or a system like Lead Docket or an intake software solution. They only know what they've been told. And in the old days, when somebody was writing notes down and these notes would get lost in files and whatever. So I would say, almost before you get a number, you better think of that intake strategy. Who is taking the call? How are they trained to taking the call? And what system do they have to take all that information in clearly, properly, so that could be passed on to either the lawyer, the paralegal, so they know everything? Because they, as Harlan likes to say, they don't know what they don't know, right? They only know what they're being told and what they do know. So it is, with the right intake, you could increase your case signups 20, 30% without spending another marketing dollar, without doing anything differently, just fixing that profit. So it is, I would say, the number one issue for law firms now. It's also understanding that law is a 24/7 business. If you're going to be a law firm that says, hey, we're closed at 6 p.m. and anybody that calls, we're just going to have them go to a voicemail or something, you are missing the boat. That phone is ringing. You better be able to handle that client in their time of need 24/7 and hopefully get that client signed up, because you might not get another bite of the apple. That client's in need. They're in trouble. They need help. They're going to dial the next firm they know, the next referral, the next one down in Google. So, I think, again, if I had to pick the most important factor facing law firms now and that they need to think about, it's their intake people, their intake process, their intake software. That is number one.
Ooh, well,
yeah.
Geez. I mean, Paul, it's like, now where do we go?
Because it literally could be the difference between 20 and 30% growth or more without spending more dollars. Imagine if you actually knew how many people called your firm from my phone number, someone else's TV, someone's digital marketing, that you never signed up because the intake process was wrong.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, and it could be the one case that separates an extremely profitable year from an oak. You don't know what you don't know. That's what Harlan always says. You don't know what you don't know. You only know what you know.
God, I love that. Well, he's been on our show twice. That's the reason why, because you're like, well, he knows something, man. And if you've been around for that long, but that's why there's this disconnect. Because now they're saying life-work balance. I can't be here the whole time picking up the phone. Lawyers are quitting after 5 years. They're burnt out because they've stubbed their life out for their clients, or they've stubbed their life out working for things. Speaking to someone who's overworked and you tell them it's a 24/7 business, you got to answer the phone. They're like, I'm burnt out. Paul.
Well, no, they don't have to answer the phone themselves. There are, I mean, first of all, you could hire staff that work the off hours to take those calls.
Right.
There are outside companies that you can use to answer your calls for you that can, in many cases, some of them will answer the call, answer the client's questions, and even send out a retainer to get signed up, right away before even forwarding that call on. But they could have specific instructions and scripts, et cetera, of when to get somebody from the firm on their cell phone in their home at night, et cetera. So there are ways, you are not going to be a good lawyer. I'm not going to be a good phone number consultant. You guys are not going to be good digital marketers if you don't have some sort of work balance. That's what makes us who we are. But there is software. There are outside companies. There are a lot of tools you can use, chat managers, et cetera. So you're not 24/7, but the tools are given to you to be 24/7 if you just put the right tools in and the right teams in to work together. You can't, I find it very scary when I see firms go out and they walk through a conference, and there's a lot of good salespeople at conferences, and they'll buy 5 or 6 different things without thinking how those things communicate. Okay, I hired you guys to do my website, but then I hired a different company that says they have the best chat software, but they're not talking to you about how that's going to integrate into the website. And then they hired me to get a phone number. They hired a TV guy who's going to do unbelievable media, but nobody thought about having a system like Lead Docket where they could actually have a process for it. So firms have to, sometimes you have that expression, slow down, you'll go faster. These are all things that are important. Make sure that you're doing things that fit together. There's a cohesive plan. You're not just, shooting all over the place, for lack of a better term.
I've been like exactly in that situation. And it's like nobody even has a meeting with everyone. Like all of a sudden you find out, and sometimes you find like, oh, the TV company is using this phone number. Well, okay, great. So building off that,
and then what happens when it's not working?
Oh yeah,
they blame oh, it's the digital guy's messed up. No, it's a TV guy. Wait a minute. No, everybody gets blamed, but everybody did their job well. Everyone. I believe that there's a lot of great vendors in this space, and people gave Ferrari parts. Problem is, it was put together like, the wrong way. So it just allows for a lot of people to get blamed when everything really went right or could have gone right.
Yeah, definitely. It's everybody operated in their own little silo. So you've been dishing a lot of absolutely fantastic advice, but I got to boil it down to one thing here. If you had one piece of advice for the audience about phones or marketing, advertising, just one thing that they could do or start doing immediately, what would it be?
One piece of advice which goes across all of those things you just asked about.
No, just one.
Right. But yeah, one piece. It's that your voice matters. Don't forget who you are. I could put up a website tomorrow, right, that looks like any other lawyer's website. I could buy a billboard that looks like any other's website, and the one thing that's different about you is you. And think about that. The best way to communicate that is with your voice. And whether that is a video by, a company that makes videos, it tells you who you are. Somebody else could do what I do for a living. Somebody else cannot have Paul Faust. I am unique. I am passionate. I am who I am. So I want all of the firms out there to understand that your voice and who you are and why you're passionate matters. Get that across in your marketing, in your advertising, with how your phones are handled. It's about you, because at the same time, there are dozens of people who could provide, quote unquote, the same legal services as your market, but they can't be you. And so think about you and how you make that come across in all aspects of how you market your firm. And one of those happens to be speaking to people so you can be you.
Man, that's fantastic. Oh, wow. Well, so people want to learn more about RingBoost. They want to find you online, Paul. How can they find you on the internets?
On the internet webs, they can certainly go to ringboost.com. They can go to that site. They can look around. They'll see different numbers. They can quietly search. They can reach me directly. I can give out my direct phone number, my direct email. I happen to love talking to people, especially my legal clients. I like to sort of talk to them, go back and forth and find out what they really care about. So they could email me at paul@ringboost.com, or they can call me directly at 914-200-0013. 13 because it's my lucky number. That number will follow me, so they can look online at ringboost.com or contact me, email me, any way they want to connect with me, or find me at one of the lots of trade shows that I am at.
5 questions we ask everyone.
What was the last book you read?
The last book I read is that I'm almost done with is called Atomic Habits.
Nice. Number 2, what is your favorite place?
My favorite place? It's going to sound corny, but my favorite place is home with my kids.
It's not corny at all, man.
Nothing will ever get better than that.
Number 3, what sites, blogs, newsletters, or podcasts do you regularly check in with?
I am on Facebook a lot because I don't necessarily use it just as a social media platform. I use it as a business platform. And I happen to listen to Gary Vaynerchuk's podcast a lot, and have also started listening to Hal Elrod a little bit more.
Nice. All right. Number 4, if you were stranded on a desert island and could only pick one condiment to take with you, what would it be?
Ketchup.
All right.
Goes great on lizard.
We'll take your word for it.
From what I've been told.
Yeah. All right, last one. Number 5. After a long day or a long week at work, how do you relax and unwind?
You're asking the wrong guy because I don't really know how to do that. I'm also a volunteer firefighter, as you said. So I go to the fire department, and I also study Krav Maga, which is Israeli martial arts. And I find that to be a great way to unwind and relax.
Activity, man. That's all right.
Activity. I keep the mind going, and I'm active.
For show notes, links, and info, go to thelawsomepodcast.com or follow us on Twitter or Facebook. Be sure to leave us a review and rating in iTunes or wherever you find the you listen to. Until next week, stay lawsome.